Hi there, welcome to Adventure in Art. My name is Ben Staley. Today we're going to talk about how I made the short film Shelter with my Leica Q2. Hang on. So if you haven't seen the short film Shelter, I recommend that you click on the link below. It's the first thing you're going to see, and watch it. It's only 4 minutes, and you can come back, and this whole thing's going to make a lot more sense. Now, this isn't going to be the kind of tutorial where I tell you what buttons to push. There's plenty of those out there. We're going to talk more about creative choices, about intention, and about philosophy. Those are the things that interest me, and those are the conversations that I'd much rather have. And that's the kind of information I'd much rather share. So that's what we're doing. Okay, hey, I'm interrupting my introduction. This is an intro interruption. I'm done with the video. I just finished it and I realized it's really freaking long, but I don't want to chop it up. And the reason it's long is because I added a couple conversations with my collaborators, and they've like doubled the time of the whole thing. So I don't want to cut them out. I don't want to cut them down anymore. Aaron and Danielle are both really accomplished, really brilliant artists, and they're great people, and they say some really valuable stuff. So their interviews are towards the end of this whole video. I'm putting a table of contents down in the description, so if for some reason you don't want to watch an hour-long making of video about a 4-minute video, there is a table of contents, and you can jump to whatever section maybe interests you the most. But you know, I think there's pretty good info there, so thanks for sticking with me. Enjoy. Why did I do this, right? Why do we do anything? I bet if you're watching this, you're one of those people who is just sort of internally just compelled to capture things, compelled to tell stories. You're naturally curious about the world around you. You're sort of hungry to show the world what you're seeing through your own eyes. I guess I'm one of those people. I'm curious. I'm hungry. So why did I make this little film? As we all know, a few months ago, everything around the globe kind of ground to a halt with this current situation. And I am a director and a cinematographer by trade, and so my work came to an abrupt and very sudden halt. And I didn't work at all for several months. Now, I've been lucky to have a few projects kind of trickle in. I've been doing one kind of off and on, very remote documentary project, and then I was lucky enough to be hired to direct a national commercial campaign, all through Zoom, sitting right in this office. It was a 2-week job. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but those are the only 2 jobs I've had in the last 4 or 5 months, so I've had a bit of free time on my hands. And I'm not one to just sit around. I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna shoot things, I'm gonna write, and I'm gonna take pictures. And this is one of the things that I made. One thing that I firmly believe is that it's your limitations that are gonna shine a light on your creativity, that are gonna define you. Now, the camera companies like to make you think that you need this brand new shiny camera, you need this hot shit piece of gear, you need this 12K brand new camera, you need this 8K camera, you need all this stuff to realize your vision. And the truth is that that's just bullshit. They are trying to sell you cameras. If you're really creative and you think outside the box and you learn to take your limitations and your weaknesses and exploit them, they can be your most powerful creative storytelling tools. That's what I think. Now, last year, I acquired this guy. This is a Leica Q2. It's a fixed lens 28mm 1.7 camera. Now the lens has a little macro setting, so you can turn this little dial. It switches over to a 2.8 and it allows you to close focus. This is really cool. I'd never had a macro lens before. Now, a lot of people, they sort of misdiagnose this camera, or they just get skeptical and they like to dog Leica because they're so expensive and, oh, why would you want a $5,000 fixed lens camera? That's not what this is. This is more like a $5,000 lens with a super awesome camera on the back for free. This is one of the most amazing lenses I've ever used in my entire life. It is purely magic, and it's the reason to buy the camera.
and the camera's amazing too, but it's the lens that is the magic. Now, the camera has video mode. When I first got it, I looked at the video mode. It was kind of, if you switched over to video, you couldn't shoot fully manual. It was, it did some kind of hybrid auto thing where you couldn't really control the aperture. I basically am not interested if I can't shoot fully manual, right? I need to shoot manual or I don't want to do it. So I never really used the video at all, but then, you know, this spring they had a firmware upgrade, and after you did the firmware upgrade, you could shoot fully manual. So suddenly I became very interested, and I started just on my travels, on my journeys around the house, shooting things in macro. Here's some of that stuff. Now the idea began brewing in my head. Maybe I could just make a little short macro film. What would that be? You know, one idea I had was we had this little rainstorm, and I kind of went on the patio and I thought, well, I could just film, you know, raindrops in slow motion, you know, hitting these succulents and these things on the patio. And I thought, well, maybe that would just be cool, like a cool experimental little kind of tone poem of a short film. I don't know. I couldn't really achieve anything that I liked there. I would shoot like spiders and bugs and things like that because, you know, the macro mode is so cool. You can get so close to things and see them in a way that we can't see them with our own eyes. And that's the magic of a great lens, right? That's why we love photography. That's why we like films, because through these special lenses we can see the world and we can see things in ways that we can't see with our own eyes. Well, here where I live, there's a park, and you know, every morning I would take our dog Charity up to that park to do her business, and sometimes if I was out really early in the morning, I would see snails on the sidewalk. So one morning, I took the camera out, and while Charity was doing her business, I took some video shots of some of the snails. Back and I looked at them on the computer and I was like, wow, there's something here. This is so cool. Now, I knew right away that if I was going to do this, I was going to have to do it, you know, a little more seriously. Now, this is a variable ND, and it allows you to control the amount of light that is coming into the lens. You know, I want to shoot wide open so that I can get a super shallow depth of field. So that's why I use a variable ND. Now, this is a big one and too big for my Leica Q2. So what I have on here is a step-up ring, and this allows me to take this bigger filter, put it on the front of this smaller lens. And that's kind of the only other equipment I use. Boom, now I've got the Leica Q2 with fully manual video, and I've got a variable ND on the front, so I can very easily control the amount of light that's coming in. I can shoot with a low shutter, I can shoot wide open, and I can get a correct exposure. Now the Q2 doesn't have a fancy log profile. It's not designed to be a professional video camera. It's very simple. So it only shoots in Rec 709. It's a baked-in color. Gives you very limited color grading options later on. So I knew that I was gonna have to not overexpose too much, not underexpose too much, because I would lose the highlights and I would lose the shadows very quickly. So what did I do for my settings in the camera? Let me show you. Go up here to menu number 3 and video style. I shot in natural. So there's different video styles. There's standard, vivid, natural, monochrome, high contrast. I just shot in natural because it's a little softer look and it's less contrast. But then I went in and I fine-tuned it. Once you do that, there are 3 different settings you can adjust. There's contrast, sharpness, and saturation. And those are all set in the middle. I basically backed them off, so I had low contrast, low sharpness, and low saturation. I thought that way I can, if it's too contrasty when I shoot it, it's going to be hard to back it off if it crushes the blacks too much. So I wanted to shoot it kind of as flat as possible. Dial down the sharpness, dial down the saturation, dial down the contrast. So that's what I did, and then I never touched it. I set the white balance for daylight, and here we go. That's it. That's all I have to worry about. Basically, for 7 days in a row, I set my alarm for about 30 minutes before sunrise, and I would get a cup of coffee, and I'd hike up to this little park with my little Q2, and I would lay in the grass, and I would capture these little snails. Sometimes there was just a ton of them. Now, it was very tricky. There is no articulating screen, it's just this flat screen in the back, and so I'm having to lay the camera flat on the ground and then getting down to catch these little guys in focus. It was actually very tricky. Luckily, the camera has pretty good focus peaking, so I set that to red, and I'm manually focusing, and I could kind of look down and kind of see when they were in focus. A lot of times I would get the snails in focus, and I would position the camera in front of them so they're coming at me, and then I would just back it off a little bit and they would move into focus. Or I would position the camera so that they're moving laterally across the frame, and that way they stay in focus as they move through the frame. Now yes, the snails move super slow, and I would always shoot wide open in macro mode, and I would position the lens as close to them as I possibly could. Now this gives me the tightest depth of field, the most cinematic look, and the most amount of bokeh behind them. I don't know what the depth of field is at that distance, but it was only a couple millimeters, and you'd be surprised. The snails, even though they're moving so slow, the amount of time that they're in focus is very short. So you sometimes only have a few seconds to make a shot. It was actually very tricky. Now Leica has an app where you can connect to the camera via Wi-Fi and control it. If you want to do that with a video, you have to get a subscription, which costs, a yearly fee. Now they give you a free weekly trial, so I signed up for that thinking, okay, I can maybe control the camera with my phone. I can use that as a monitor, and maybe I can autofocus by touching certain parts of the screen. And I thought, well, that'll be really slick. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes the camera had a real hard time connecting or staying connected to the app, and basically I abandoned it after about a day. And I just went fully manual, fully just using my eyes to keep things in focus, and it was just faster. I just didn't waste any time. Now I wish Leica would improve this app, and I wish they would make it a little better. The things you could do with something like this, and like a bigger iPad, and then seeing that whole image and being able to touch where you want to focus, it really could be a game changer for making a macro film with this thing. Camera settings additionally. How did I shoot this? I wanted maximum resolution, but I wanted options in post. So I knew that I was going to master it in HD, but shoot in 4K. I shot 4K 30p. I knew that I would master in HD with a 24p timeline. That would make my 30p footage be like 80% slow motion, right? Why would I do that? Snails are already slow. I just wanted as many frames as possible for later, right? I wanted flexibility. I wanted the ability to ramp, to speed up, to slow down, to do whatever I wanted. I wanted the most information possible. So I shot in 4K, 30p, knowing that I would master in HD 24p. You know, as I started off, I didn't really know what I was going to do with this footage. I didn't really know if I could make a narrative out of it. I didn't really know where I was going. And I just knew that I needed to shoot a bunch of snails, and I would find a story there. I would put something together. And I think halfway through the process, maybe day 2 or 3 or something, I got the idea of just telling the story of what they're doing. They basically come out at night and they're hanging out in the wet grass and they're crawling around and they're eating and they're drinking and they're doing whatever the heck snails do. And then as it starts warming up and the sun comes up, they haul ass to this tall grass and they hide out and they get deep down in this tall grass and they get in their shells and they hibernate until night again. So I'm basically telling that story. I would come back at the end of every day, put the footage on the computer and kind of skim through it, kind of spot check, see what I screwed up, see what I did good. From this, I would kind of get an idea of maybe what I wanted to focus on the next day. And so I did this 7 days in a row. I was getting up really early. Now at the very beginning and the very end of the piece are some time lapses. So when I was done shooting the snails, I wanted to get the sun rising or showing itself through the tall grass. And I knew, that could take a long time, right? Because the sun moves really slow. So I shot that as full resolution time lapses with the Q2. It's basically, you can shoot 8K time lapses with the darn thing, and it's got an internal intervalometer. So I did that 3 days in a row until I was satisfied with the shots that I got. You basically get one shot at it. You got to come out there, it's still kind of dark out. You've got to find a shot, set it up through the grass, wait for the sun to come up, and then hopefully you put the camera in the right spot. And I wanted the sun shining through the grass right into the lens. It basically took me 3 days to get it right. Post-production, okay? I use Final Cut Pro 10 and I've been using it for a few years. I did a feature doc on the thing and just really fell in love with it. I like it, I'm quick with it, and I think it's great. It's my favorite editing platform that I use, so that's what I used for this. When I was done shooting the snails, I put all the footage in one timeline, just strung it out in order that I shot it, and I had over 7 hours of footage. I know, it's a 4-minute movie. It's not even 4 minutes, it's less than 4 minutes. Maybe I overshot, I don't know, but I wanted the very best shots, right? I wanted the cream to rise to the top, and I wanted it to be awesome. And then it's just about kind of rolling up your sleeves and getting down to work. And what I do is I just put it all on one timeline. I start at the beginning and I just start pulling out shots. Boom, boom, pulling shots, pulling shots. I stick them all at the beginning of the timeline and then I begin putting them in order. Because I shot in 4K, this gave me a lot of flexibility with the image. I had a lot more resolution than I needed for my HD timeline. I'm able to punch in, I'm able to animate the frames. This gave me some creative freedom and some options that really helped tell the story. I knew I wanted an awesome score. So my friend Aaron is a composer and he does movie trailers and commercials, and he's been in a couple pretty awesome bands. So we've been wanting to work together for a long time. So I reached out to him, sent him a little sample of the footage and said, hey dude, I'm making this short film. Are you interested in collaborating with me on the score? And thankfully he was.
What I dig about this is, like, you were just like, yeah, I'll make some music. And then we didn't even talk about it anymore. And then,
well, I think we have a mutual understanding of each other's approach, and I think you asked me knowing maybe a little bit about what I might do, and
I mean, I guess I just wanted to pick your brain of, like, what do you do? Like, do you watch the thing for a couple days, or like, what's your process? Like, how do you go about something like that creatively? Because honestly, that's the stuff I'm interested in, right? Like, how do we how do we actually do these things? Like, not necessarily pushing the buttons, not, I mean, I am interested in what instruments you used or what software you used, but like more, it's like, where'd the idea come from?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it a few times, and I thought it was beautiful, and it was really incredible to see. Like, snails are sort of like, you see them passing, and I've appreciated them here and there, but I've never really sat down and thought about snails, and like, and I never really realized that I mean, I realized that their shells were for protection, right? But I never realized that, oh, yeah, the sun could just totally like fry and kill these guys, if they're not like, if they don't find some shelter, right? Before the sun just, you know, cooks them. And it was like a really heavy thing to think about. Like, during this whole COVID thing, it's kind of made me appreciate small things, like in my day-to-day life, uh, I'm noticing things that didn't stick out before. Like, there's less traffic, there's less people out and about. So like when I go out and walk my dog, uh, there's a peacefulness that wasn't there before, and it's made me, take in things that I never really paid much attention to. Like, I don't know if there's more birds, but I hear more birds. So I'm like, wow, there's so many more birds. And I don't know if there's more, but it's like I'm noticing them more, and like the air is here in LA, like I think without so many people out, the air's been better. And like just think everything, there's certain things that just seem to stand out more to me now that I didn't really appreciate before. I mean, I appreciated them, but it wasn't, I didn't feel in tune to. So like this snail video was really another extension of that. So I was like, wow, man, this is so fascinating. I wonder if Ben intentionally did this, somehow relating to this state of the world. And because it's like, now I remember when this all started, it was like, wow, shit, I gotta like think about my family. Like, how am I gonna get food? Like, I have a baby. It's just these primal sort of instincts kick in, and it makes you. It really made me like panic for a minute, because we rely on, the machine, everything to be working. And when it was in sort of like a collapse for a second there, I mean, it's still not right, obviously, but it sent me into a panic. And this snail thing really was interesting, because it was these little guys out in the world trying to get what they needed and get back to some shelter before, you know, before the sun cooked them. So it was just felt like this very, like, even though it's like the small world thing, it felt very epic to me, and I felt like it needed some sort of like some powerful music to like accompany what you captured.
Well, dude, you freaking did the powerful music. I mean, it's like, it's not, I think maybe some people would do something real delicate and whimsical or something, but it's like this thing that just builds. And it's honestly, it's like, it's such a, you just freaking brought so much to it that I hadn't really imagined. I guess all that stuff you just mentioned, it's like, I didn't mean for it to have this kind of weight. Honestly, I was just like, oh, I want to try out my little camera and see if I can film something cool. And then you put this score on it, and then it's just like, I don't know. I've had other people, comment and tell me things that are like, wow, I don't know. But I guess, I don't know. I guess that's what we do as artists. You just kind of can't help but reflect kind of what's going on inside. And I think we all have a lot of heavy stuff going on inside.
Yeah, I mean, you might have just been drawn to that without even knowing that there was some sort of connection. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was so cool that you did it. I mean, you did it on your Q2?
Yeah, it's I'm this little guy right here. I mean, it's a fixed lens camera. It's just like,
right,
you can't even change the lenses. It's not what you would think that you could make a film with. And mostly I just like, I mean, I kind of talk about it in the video I'm making, but it's like, I don't know, man. I'm a minimalist. Like, I like just getting rid of, look, I've done jobs and directed things, and I've had a truck full of lights, and I've had like 10 crew people, and like, honestly though, like just having one little camera and one lens and going out and seeing if you can make something,
Yeah.
that's almost my favorite thing. It's like, get rid of all the toys, get rid of all the gadgets, all the equipment, and just go and see what you can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. I feel like a lot of the artists and people I really respect kind of have that approach where it's not really about the equipment they're using. It's more about it's the person driving, right? It's the Indian, not the arrow, whatever that saying is. Like it's it's the person, it's the artist. It doesn't, I mean, as long as you have something that works for you, that's all that really matters.
That's my message, man. It's like, you don't need the newest hot shit gear. You don't need this fancy new stuff. Just use what you have.
Yeah, for
What,
sure.
but I do want to know what's in that thing, because there's so many layers. All right, let's get on topic here. I want to know what did you put in there?
There's I mean, it's all virtual, because that's just the nature of the world that I operate in. Most of my work is in trailers, so I have to work pretty quickly, and there's a lot of back and forth with clients and revisions, and I think that's pretty true with any, like, well, unless you have a decent budget film and you can get into a studio and really create, but you know,
Most of them, they don't have the budget for a live recording, and it's just kind of, at least you're doing most of the work on a computer with virtual instruments and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and the quality, I mean, the virtual instruments now are just insane, and like the articulations they record, and the depth of these instruments is so insane. And with some good playing and some processing, you can really bring them to life, and make it feel like real players. And so there's some strings, a lot of string stuff. There's some drums, there's some synths in there to kind of drive things along. Just building layers, man. Just starting with a layer to create a mood, and it's just trying to build from there. Like keep bringing it up and up and up to a crescendo. And that's kind of what those little guys were doing. They were just starting their journey out there, just trying to get a feel and find some shit and gather and then get back back home.
I know, man. We all just want to get home.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I really feel like you really elevated the thing, and it's just, I don't know. I'm super proud of it, and I'm super proud of what you did. It's honestly,
too, man.
It really really tickles me. Yeah. Are you? I know you do a lot of trailers and stuff, and like we are the first time, maybe in the history of films, that like there's no big tent poles and no big films coming out. Has that affected what you're doing? Because, dude, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
should drop some names here, but like you did Martin Scorsese's last trailer. Like you did some music for that. That's freaking huge.
Yeah. I've been lucky. Productions, yeah, it's slowed way down. It's weird. Like there'll be weeks where nothing's going on, and then there'll be a week where things start to pick up, and then it's just like it's like everything right now. It's just hard to understand where things are heading, and I start to feel hopeful that things are picking up, and it seems like they are, and then like I said, there's a week where maybe it doesn't feel like there's much going on. So it's really just like the work's still coming in, but it's not like usual, and I keep thinking, like, when's it gonna, is this gonna be the week that it just dries up? But there's so much media, so much out there that it's still coming in, but it's not like it was. And so we'll see, maybe
Crossing fingers,
they got to find a way, to safely get things rolling, but it's got to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm fine. Like, we have never stopped distancing at all. I haven't been in a restaurant since February, I think. And
Yeah, same here.
yeah, and it's just like I don't care. I just want it to go away. I'll do whatever I got to do. Like,
Yeah, same.
I've been blessed to have a little bit of work trickle in here and there, and that just helps keep the lights on. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's scary if you're an artist and you kind of are on a freelance situation, and A
Yeah.
lot. I'm just grateful that I've gotten what I have, and a lot of people are hurting. I feel for them.
Yeah, and you're doing it right, man. You're being productive during this time. I think a lot of people had that mission to that feeling like, okay, let's make, the most of this time. Let's get a lot done. And I've talked to some people who have dug in and, learned some new skills or made some stuff or learned something or I've talked to some other people that are just like I had, I wanted to get doing some stuff and I just, I haven't, and maybe it's just getting them down, but
It's hard. It's hard sometimes, but like I don't know. Maybe you agree. For me, it's just like I get afraid and depressed. Like it's hard sometimes. You look at it and it's very uncertain. The uncertainty is what's the scariest. You don't know, you don't know when things might really clamp down or the trickle might stop. So I don't know. I just if I have a mission, man, I can go make some videos or go film stuff, even if it's by myself somewhere. Or at least it just keeps my mind engaged and
yeah, it keeps you making art and focused and keep your mind occupied. For me, it's the downtime it's dangerous for me.
that's it, man. And I'm trying to tell my daughter that of like, it's like the idle when you're just idle and you don't have something to do. I go crazy. Like
Yeah.
I start to get kind of down, and so
Yeah.
that's why I do so much personal photography and filming and things because I just need to. If I'm not getting paid, I still got to be working.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I appreciate everything you're doing, man. All of the stuff you're cranking out and all the inspiration, and it's inspiring. It really is. And it's important to have that, like to have your friends and people you look up to.
Well, same with you, man. I see you are always putting stuff out and doing things. Are you? Have you? We talked last week, I think, about you sent over the little snap of is this a good film stock? Have you been out and shot any film or anything? Have you walked around?
Uh, yeah, I've shot my neighborhood. I'm just sort of getting bored of shooting my neighborhood. I need to venture in some new landscape, some new territory, and shoot some cool stuff. But yeah, I need to pick your brain a little bit more about.
It's more forgiving, so that's why you're better off being a little too bright than a little too dark.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, it's fun, man. I love analog. It's just like it kind of takes you out of this like, oh, I can fix it my mentality, which is like very present in music and art these days. It's like when I was making records in studios, the bands that would come in would just come in with this mentality of we pretty much know what we want to do, but I know that we can fix it in Pro Tools. I know we can experiment. I know we can move shit around. And it's like this mentality of it can be fixed instead of we have a vision, we know what to do. And if there's time, we'll do some experimenting. So it's like this strange, like, approach that I would just like wasn't used to. And it's just like, it's, for me growing up and probably the same for you, we grew up when you had to commit, like everything was analog and you grew up shooting film and I grew up recording the tape, and like, there's a quality to that and that's so much more pleasing all around, but it obviously is more money, it's more time, and the world we live in just doesn't really work that way. Shit's got to be done fast, and if there's mistakes, there's got to be, you got to be able to tweak, and you've got to be able to backtrack. And
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Aaron, in that like I think, as a filmmaker, look, there's this thing of, oh, we'll fix it in post. But, fuck that. Yeah, you can fix it in post, but you don't want to. Like, you get so much better results if you use a little more care and a little more craft on the day.
yeah, for sure, all these tools are awesome, and I'm not knocking them, but when you have the time and the ability to go analog, it's so much fun, and it's like so much. It feels so like natural. It feels like familiar. Just because I think that's what we grew up with.
I agree, man. It's like getting dirt under your fingernails or something.
Yeah,
It's just like there's something to it. Not to sound like a total hipster, but it's much purer.
Yeah, for sure,
I don't
man.
know.
Like,
Do you feel different? Like, I don't know, how often do you, I know you're multi-instrumental, but like, do you ever just sit down at an analog drum kit and just pound away?
yeah, I mean, like, not so much, these days, but I mean, yeah, my kit's right over there. I don't know if you can see it. But daughter, I live in a neighborhood, like, can't it's not like I used to have this rehearsal space to go just like do what I want, but yeah, it's so much fun, man. So much more fun than pressing keys. And because you're using your body, you're as good as stuff is digitally, and it's still, if you grew up doing things analog, it's still not quite there, but it's pretty close now. And like I said, I'm not knocking digital. I'm not one of those guys that's like, screw. It's so, yeah. I mean, like, it's amazing, and I mean, I couldn't work without it. I
Same,
couldn't.
same, me too.
Yeah,
I've never shot motion picture film in my life, and I'm like not even a young guy. It's just that like when I started working, it was all video, and so
yeah.
I've never shot film. I'd like to, but like, you know,
The cost, I mean, it's the same recording records. I mean, you've got to know your songs. You've got to be prepared to record, and you got to nail that shit. Because I mean, otherwise, the reel of tapes, I don't even know what they cost now, but so maybe 150, $200
is it really
for,
okay? And
yeah. I
how
mean,
long does that get you? I don't know anything about your world, dude. I'm a total idiot.
it depends on the speed you're recording, uh and all that stuff. But I think if I remember right, you can get like a half an hour,
Okay, well that ain't long.
40
That's like a couple takes
45
of a song.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, especially when your songs are 10 minutes long,
yeah.
like
You're
ours
not
were.
like doing short pop songs, are you, dude?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it adds up. And there's still bands that do it, like Tool. Those guys still recorded tape. And
Do they really?
yeah, they track to tape. And I mean, the ideal situation now is you can record, I guess, just like making movies. You record to film, and then you take it in digitally, and then
And
you
then
can
it's
take it in.
scanned in. Yeah.
You
Well,
can
you
take it
were.
in the box. And
I mean, we didn't really talk about it. You were in the studio for some of that stuff, weren't you?
a little bit, yeah.
Some of the drums, yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. I mean, just as a guest to go by and say hello. And
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
yeah,
Super impressive, man.
yeah. I mean, Danny's just
I
phenomenal.
you probably, I mean, you saw it. You know, you guys are friends, but like that Numa video that's on YouTube where it's like the multicam thing of him playing that song. It's insane.
Yeah, man. Like, even as a drummer, I when I watch Danny play, it's like watching someone do something new. It's like he's just such a innovator, man. He's such a talented dude, and it just is so natural to him. And it's really fun to watch. Like, I guess anybody that's really a master at what they do. It's even if you like do the same thing, there's those people that just stand out and are just like, wow, it's like watching someone do this for the first time.
I agree, dude. I mean, I know my way around cameras and stuff, but then there's some people who are real masters, and it's just like you just got to stand back and just kind of bask in it and just be like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's cool.
we're all. I guess that's why I like filmmaking and photography. Probably why you like music, because it's like you're gonna keep learning your whole life. Like
Yeah,
it's not something you arrive at. It's a journey.
for sure. Yeah, and I really appreciate the artists that are willing to share. Like, I mean, there's stuff that you keep close to home, but I really enjoyed talking to other artists and musicians or whatever, however they fit, just about their process and what they do. It's really fun to be like, hey man, what did you do on that song? Like, what does that sound? Tell me what you did. I've tried to replicate it, or like, I'm sure for you, it's like, hey, how did you get that shot? I mean, what did you use? And sometimes, like we were talking before, it's like you assume it's some really nice thing. Like, oh, did you use this like amazing camera, or did you use this really expensive signal chain to record that? And it's like, no, I got lucky, and I used my I used my 4-track recorder, and I just had this shitty drum, and I put it through a distortion box, and it just made this ungodly sound. And then that's the shit that stands out because it sounds different from what everybody else is doing.
Yes, yes. I mean, I said that at the beginning of this video that this is going to be, and it's like, I think honestly your creativity is defined by your limitations.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of my mantra, it's just like, just see what you can do. Like, a lot of people, oh, I need this equipment and I need this gear and I need this new camera and I need this lens. Well, just see what you can do with what you have.
Yeah, and that shit, when you get too much shit, I've been guilty of this, of just buying too many instruments, and then you have too many options, and then you get stuck that way sometimes, where it's like, I know what I want to accomplish, but I have so many options. Whereas when you're limited, you just have to go, you have to figure it out, and you have to dive in. And that, and then for me, I've often found that the stuff that I spend, I don't want to say the least amount of time because that's not right, but like the stuff that I've spent a lot of time on has not paid off as well as the stuff that I've just like dove in and did it. And yeah, like you just have those things that just, they take off, and you're on fire, and it happens and it feels great. And then you have the things that you're like, you really are methodical about, and you take all this time to do, and it just doesn't turn out as cool as the thing that took you a couple hours.
I totally agree, dude. Sometimes the best shit that I've done, like some of my favorite photos later, I'm just like, wait a minute, like, how did I do that? You know, some of the best things, and it's just like, but that's all the missed shots, and that's all the hours of work, and then sometimes that allows the kind of the muse to just click in and things to happen. Like, you've got to do that work,
Yeah, for sure.
Aaron, I just really appreciate you being willing to take time to collaborate with me on this, because it's something I'm really, really proud of.
Me too, man. I was really happy to do it, and it came out great. And I think it's a really nice thing for the time that we're in, like just visually, and it's something to consider, and kind of shines a new perspective on things it did for me. And I really had a great time working on it. So I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, bro.
As I was putting the thing together, I just thought, well, maybe it needs more than just music. Maybe it needs some voiceover.
In the cool, moist darkness, traveling under a blanket of stars in the gentleness of the night, before the resting world awakens and the veil of respite is lifted.
It doesn't have to be live. It's not a live interview. Okay. Plus, it's good practice for you.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. Totally. You should do this all the time. We should do a weekly interview. Let's do a weekly interview series.
Makes me really nervous.
I know, it's okay. So it's so weird that you're an actress and you're so nervous. You're so nervous to be interviewed.
I don't do interviews, and in speech class in college, every time I had to get up there, I'd have tears pouring down my face, and I'd be shaking the whole time. But with acting, it's completely different. So it's I take on somebody else's.
You can play a character, but you can't play yourself. You're terrified to be yourself.
Well, not in real life, but if I have to stand up, not walking around town, but if I have to stand up in front of a group of people, I think that's what it is.
So the
and
camera's
this feels like a group of people.
It's only the internet. It's only 14 billion people or something. No, there's not that many people on the planet. It's a lot of people. No pressure, though. I'm not making this easier. No pressure. It's just that little camera.
Okay.
Well, it's weird. It's I'm fine doing interviews. I've done TV interviews and crap like that.
Yeah. You're good at it.
Yeah, but I'm not good at playing a different character. I'm just whatever. I can sit here and bullshit. But
I could argue with that.
Well, okay, whatever. So look, we've been making stuff for 15 years.
Yeah. It's been a while. As long as we've known each other, yeah, practically.
Yeah. No, literally as long as we've known each other. We've been making crap together.
Yeah. It's kind of like the it's kind of like the makeup of our partnership DNA. It's just it's there.
No, it's you're always the one where when I get a stupid crazy idea, you're the one I can bounce it off of, and you're yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's where I'm like, there's nobody I can ask except Danny. And then it's like, yeah, let's do some weird shit. All the weirdest shit I've done with you.
Okay. Great. Cool.
Maybe I shouldn't have framed it that way. I mean, like,
yes.
I mean, like, we've done some weird movies. Remember Jeff
Yeah.
and Jimmy?
Jeff and Jimmy was pretty weird, yeah. But, you know, I could see it. I could see where you're coming from, and the potential that it had was pretty cool. The idea was weird, but it was
I need
really
to
cool.
dig out some old hard drives and find Jeff and Jimmy, because I actually really liked that. Okay, Jeff and Jimmy was like this idea. There was like this online contest or something.
Yeah.
It was for a contest, right?
Yeah.
And then I get this crazy idea of like, all right, it's a double date. So like these two best friends go on a double date with some other best friends. And so it's like Danny and her best friend, who's this girl. And then this dude shows up with his best friend. It's like his imaginary friend.
He's invisible.
So he's invisible. And so Danny's on this double date with this invisible dude. Like I said, it's weird. But anyways, we got like...
It was funny as hell
it was
what it was.
funny
it was
as hell.
Really funny. Like imagine like shooting, like playing a game of tennis with like an imaginary like person, you know, doubles game of tennis. It was just odd, but it was fun as heck. So
they're like, what does this have to do with snails? You guys get on topic.
I think it's that if you're creative, then, you know, part of being, you know, happy in life is constantly creating, constantly feeding that part of you. And it's, it doesn't matter if like everybody or nobody likes it. I mean, okay, yeah, it's wonderful when people like it, but
It's nice. It feels good.
but it's not actually part of the ultimate creative process. It's just like a bonus.
It's not the important
Yeah,
thing.
it's a
not the
bonus.
end goal. Like the people like something that you do is not the end goal. I mean, I'm not the one to say this, but you know, you just want people to have a reaction. At least I do. Like if they hate it, okay, great. You affected them.
Yeah.
If they like it, great. If they think about something or they have questions, that's great. They're engaged. You want to engage. I think you want to engage an audience. I don't know. I think what I've learned from you is, you know, I sort of go after these things like I get an idea or it's like an emotional response. But you know, what I get off of you or what I've learned off of you with everything is like, you always really provide specific intention with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did that with the snail video. It was like, because you know, I just talked to Aaron and the thing with him was like, I was like, hey man, you want to make some music? And he's like, yeah. And then we didn't talk about it till the music showed up in my inbox.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is awesome. And then with you, I'm like, hey, you want to write some words for this thing? And you're like, we didn't say much. And then you're like, here they are. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, I think you're probably a little more spontaneous when it comes to just like putting visuals down, like instantly, you know, putting visuals down. That's where your photography comes in and stuff. With me, I do visualize like that, but I visualize whole storylines. So when you showed me when you asked me to do the snail project, the first thing I thought was you wanted me to make voices for the snails, and I was like,
that would be awesome. That'll be the sequel. They talk.
And then after talking, I got it, and it wasn't really until I saw the visuals and the music together that I really embodied it, and I like sort of felt like I knew where it was going and what the feel of the voice should be. So. Gliding and foraging across the land, a series of movements, an algorithm
for survival.
Well, you really brought a lot because, like, it's really hard to direct you or to, like, say what it needs to be because I didn't really know. I mean, that's a bad thing to admit, but I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it needs some voices. And then we just kind of had to just start. And then we're like, oh, no, we need to do a little different. Oh, we did like 3 different runs through it, and it shaped it every time. And it was, honestly, it was super fun. And then to get it, like, tuned in right where it was. And you were just, when I say that, you know, you provide intention, but you were just super specific about every phrasing and every rhythm. And as the tempo of the music changed, the tempo of your delivery changed, and it just works, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part, is just getting started, right? So once you do that, you just kind of like build upon it. And I just think that we have great teamwork.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. But like, that's the fun, right? It's like you have an idea, even though it's an idea, you don't know in the beginning what it needs to be. It's just sort of an idea. And then you have to shape that idea. And you have to make that idea the best thing it can be. You have to realize it. Mm-hmm. And that's the fun part, right? Of like the shaping. I think people think that, oh, I'm going to make this film, and then it's fully realized in your brain. It's not. It's just like, we're going to kind of work with this material and then keep shaping it and shaping it.
Totally. Even though I have to visualize all of it as a storyline, as I do with everything. It's the happy mistakes and the happy accidents that actually turn out often to be like the most coolest things, and you're like, yeah, that's it right there.
That's the magic, right?
That's the magic.
The magic is the shit you almost don't plan for. So you gotta plan, you gotta be open, execute, but then you're just hoping some shit goes wrong, or like just some magic happens. That's the luck. Yeah, I totally agree.
True.
All right, well, thanks.
Yeah.
You have to write and direct another short film, because it's been too long, and
okay.
You won awards and stuff last time. It's like you're a brilliant director and a brilliant writer. I just think you need to get back on that horse and do something. And since we're doing this and we're putting it on the internet, I'm just saying that to the internet. Get out there and
pressure. Woo! God, okay, I'm on it.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah.
That's great. That's all we need. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your help.
Sure.
I'm serious. Really appreciate it.
One thing that I didn't really anticipate was the color correction, okay? Because I was shooting early in the morning, the light would actually change really dramatically. Now, I never changed the white balance settings on the camera, but when I would get out there pre-dawn in the morning, it's very, very blue. And sometimes I would shoot until well after the sun came up, and the colors would be very orange. So I had, at the end of it, you know, because I shot in maybe a 2-hour range every morning, the color temperature would change pretty dramatically over the course of the morning. And so with the shots I used from different parts of the morning and different days, the color temperature actually was pretty radically different with a lot of shots. And so I had to color correct it and try and time it and make them all match. It was tricky. What I do is I use adjustment layers. So I decided I'll throw a LUT over everything to give everything kind of a similar tonality. And that's what this adjustment layer is. And then with the individual shots that maybe didn't quite match, I would go in and put an adjustment layer on top of them and adjust them individually, you know, contrast, color balance, brightness, all that stuff to make them match. So that's how I did it. It's got me itching to do something else. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do next. It's actually got me itching to use like an SL2 and a more proper, you know, camera that's really dialed in for video, but you can still use those awesome Leica lenses. I am really itching to shoot some video on the SL2, do something like this, some kind of weird little abstract, creative, strange little nature film. I guess I always just wanted to be like one of those National Geographic guys that, you know, hung out in the woods for like a month filming animals, and that was your job. I never quite had that job, but that's a job I always kind of wanted. So maybe this scratched that itch a little bit. You do something like this and really it just kind of opens doors in your mind about what's possible and what you can do next. I can look back and every film that I've made, every TV show that I've made that lasted a long time, it changes you. You're a different person at the end of that experience, at the end of that creative journey than you were at the start. And I think that's the reward, right? The things that you've learned, the experiences that you've had, how you've changed as a person. Then you go into the next project and you can tell the next story better and sharper and with a clearer vision, with a different vision. That's the blessing of doing this kind of work. That's the reason I'm a big advocate of just making things. Make short films, tell stories, put everything you have into it. It doesn't matter what you have. Just use what you have. If you just have a basic, simple camera, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to care what camera you used, and if they do, if that's all they care about, if that's the only value they see in your project is because of the camera you used, well, that's their loss. But if you can affect people emotionally, if you can tell an engaging story with even just a basic camera, even if it's your iPhone, do it. Scratch that itch. Go out. Try as hard as you can. Learn. Make mistakes. Pick it up. You're going to grow. You're going to get better. You're going to change. That's what being a storyteller is. Right? You're different at the end of the journey than you were at the start. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, which there's probably a lot, I'm not the best at doing tutorials, and I'm not going to do a lot of them, but I wanted to talk about this. But if you have any other questions or things I didn't cover or things I wasn't clear on, just leave me a comment and I will get back to you, I promise. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a like and a subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.